It's the end of the year, which means one thing. It's our top 5 bourbons of 2022. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Whiskey Tornado. I'm your host, Lance. It's our most anticipated episode of the year. It's our top 5 bourbons of 2022. But before we do that, I want to tell you the criteria for being in my top 5. Number 1, I had to have found the bottle on the shelf. So that eliminates most of your allocated bottles. And I know, most of the channels are going to say the William LaRue Wellers, the George T. Staggs, the Parker's Heritage bottles are their bourbons of the year. But what's the point if you can't find most of these bottles or you have to pay outrageous secondary prices? I want to give you guys bottles that you can find and that you can buy close to MSRP. And that's our second criteria. I had to have found the bottle for close to MSRP. So if I found the bottle on the shelf and I bought it for close to MSRP and it ranked in my top 5 scoring throughout all the reviews I did in the year, it goes in to our blind tasting submitted to our Patreon members, which we did on a live stream, which you can watch on the link above. So we tasted through these. We had a blast. Let's get right down to it. Our top 5 bourbons of 2022. Coming in at number 5 is Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Barrel Proof. The bottle we reviewed comes in at 126.6 proof, and I was able to find this bottle on the shelf for $52. So while it placed last in our blind tasting, it is value, value, value. And I think it's a bottle a lot of people overlook in their bourbon of the year running. The amount of flavor and texture and finish that you get in a $50 to $65 bottle is hard to beat when you're talking about Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Barrel Proof. And I was honored to have it as our 5th best bourbon of 2022. Coming in at number 4 of our top bourbons of 2022 is none other than Woodford Batch Proof. So while this is one of the more expensive bottles in our top 5 bourbons of 2022, it has a lot of the same DNA as the Old Forester birthday bourbons. So if you've been dying to get your hands on those and you can't, this might be a good alternative, even though it's a little bit more expensive and it's still kind of hard to find. Honestly, those are pretty allocated. I was really amazed that I found that on our shelf at our local Costco. Our 3rd best bourbon of 2022 is one that got a lot of buzz. It is Larceny Barrel Proof Batch B522. When we tasted this in our live stream, all the Patreon members agreed that it wasn't very complex. The texture was beautiful. Lots of nuttiness on this one. Drinks well below its proof, but as some of you may or may not know, this is the same mash bill as the old Fitz decanters, just at a higher proof. And it tastes a lot like those, but beautiful, full of texture and body, not super complex, kind of a one-note whiskey, but really beautiful. Number 2 on our list of top 5 bourbons of 2022 is none other than Calumet 16. And I honestly, guys, thought this one was gonna win. It did win for me in my blind flight, but it didn't get the votes from our Patreon members. Guys, I just gotta tell you, I absolutely love the Calumet 16 bottle. It is very balanced, lots of age. You have the little bit of that cherry, some oak, some clove. It is a beautifully balanced bourbon and one that I think many people are gonna wish they bought cases of in the coming years. And the crazy thing about that bottle is I still see it sitting on shelves. So if you have the coin, go ahead and buy a couple bottles. I know it's expensive at $130, but in a few years, I think you're gonna be very happy that you did. All right, guys, and that brings us to our bourbon of the year, our number 1 bourbon of 2022, as voted on by our Patreon members in a blind tasting on a live stream. It is none other than Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch C922. It is our 2nd bourbon from the Heaven Hill Distillery in our top 5 list. Heaven Hill absolutely killed it. It is my distillery of the year. They had so many fantastic releases. And C922 squeaks in at the end of the year, just in time for our bourbon of the year running. and it won hands down in our blind tasting. It gets back to the great years of Elijah Craig barrel proof releases of 2020. 2021 was a big miss throughout the whole year, in my opinion. But they revived themselves in 2022 and came in with an absolute hitter at the end of the year. Now, I know some of you want to know, even though I didn't put allocated bottles in my top 5 bourbons of 2022, what is the best pour of the year I've had so far? And 2 come to mind. One is Heaven Hill 17, and the other is Parker's Heritage release from this year. And if I had to pick between the 2, Parker's Heritage gets my vote for bourbon of the year if you're including allocated bourbons. And surprise, surprise, both of those are from Heaven Hill Distillery. So congrats to Heaven Hill, you absolutely killed it. 2 of my top 5 bourbons that I could actually find and buy at MSRP. So not only is Heaven Hill providing us with crazy good allocated special release bottles, they're also providing us with some bottles that we can find on the shelves at reasonable prices that are also fantastic. All right, guys, I hope you had a wonderful 2022. We have done a lot of videos in the month of December, so I'm gonna take a couple weeks off, but we will see you guys in 2023. We have a lot of big things coming. Cheers, everybody.
Then